Welcome back to the channel, where real stories meet raw emotion. Today, we're diving into the incredible rise of a young woman who never expected the spotlight, but ended up redefining what true courage sounds like. This is the true story of Naomi Rivers, an overlooked intern whose quiet strength and raw voice turned a global campaign upside down and stunned an entire industry into silence. If you've ever felt invisible, underestimated, or out of place, this story is for you. Now, let's begin. Naomi Rivers stood at the base of the Pulse Media Tower, craning her neck to stare at the glass and steel monstrosity stabbing into the Manhattan sky. The building didn't just reflect the sun, it swallowed it. People in sharp suits whisked past her like they had somewhere far more important to be. She adjusted her thrift store blazer, which smelled faintly of cedar and old bookstores. Her chestnut hair, thick and frizzy from the humid morning, refused to stay pinned. She had tried to look presentable, but compared to the sleek fashionistas walking in with designer bags and lips painted like royalty, Naomi felt like a background blur in someone else's movie. She pressed the elevator button and exhaled slowly. "You're early," said a woman's voice beside her. Naomi turned. A tall, poised woman with glossy black hair stood to her left, wearing a cream pantsuit that looked impossibly expensive. Her heels clicked sharply with every step, and her perfume smelled like money. "I'm Iris Fontaine," the woman added, offering a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be one of the hopefuls." Naomi hesitated. Yeah, Naomi Rivers. I'm here to read for the Voice of Courage campaign." Iris gave a small, almost imperceptible chuckle. "Ah, the intern slot. Cute." The elevator dinged open. They stepped inside. It was just the two of them and the soft hum of jazz playing over the speaker system. "You know," Iris said casually as the doors closed, "Daniel Cho is very particular. He's not looking for amateur charm. He wants poise, depth, precision, media presence. Things that take years, not a resume from Oregon State." Naomi smiled politely. "Good to know." The numbers on the panel blinked slowly. 24th floor, 25th, 26th. Iris turned to her again, lowering her voice. "I wouldn't waste my one shot if I were you. Just because they opened auditions to outsiders doesn't mean they're actually looking for one of you to win. You're here for diversity optics. That's all." Naomi didn't answer. She focused on the humming music, the rising numbers, the pounding in her chest. Ding. Floor 31. The doors slid open to a sun-drenched lobby. Everything was marble, glass, and quiet tension. A receptionist in black greeted them both with a nod. "This way, Miss Fontaine," she said. "Mr. Cho is reviewing the shortlist." As Iris sauntered off, Naomi stepped forward. "Excuse me, I'm here to audition too." The receptionist raised an eyebrow, glanced at her clipboard, then nodded slowly. "Naomi Rivers, intern candidate. You're in Group B. Wait in the lounge down the hall." Naomi thanked her and walked down a corridor lined with framed magazine covers. Pulse exclusives, edgy, powerful, unforgettable. At the end of the hallway, the lounge opened into a quiet space with sleek chairs, cold water bottles, and a wall-sized screen looping clips from Pulse's biggest docu-series. She sat down on the edge of a stiff leather chair. Her reflection stared back at her from the black TV glass. Nervous eyes, wrinkled collar, a spot of ink on her wrist from earlier. This was ridiculous. She was one voice in a sea of powerhouses. Influencers with millions of followers. Actresses with agents and stylists. Voices already trained to sound like velvet. Who was she to compete? And yet, she closed her eyes and remembered her mom's voice, the way she used to tell bedtime stories. Slow, deliberate, full of fire. The way she'd once whispered, "You don't have to be loud to be heard. You just have to be true." Naomi took a breath and leaned back. She wouldn't pretend. She wouldn't perform. She'd speak. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The room buzzed with curated perfection. A dozen young women lounged on velvet seating, all of them preened and polished. Naomi stepped in cautiously, clutching her canvas tote like a life raft. Nobody looked up. Not really. A glance here, a raised eyebrow there. But most were too busy retouching their lip gloss or scrolling their curated feeds. A tall girl with platinum waves finally broke the ice. "Hi, delivery?" Naomi blinked. "Excuse me?" "Oh, sorry." The girl gave a faux apologetic smile. "The tote threw me off. I thought you were from craft services." Laughter rippled through the room. Naomi felt her ears flush, but she didn't flinch. A second woman chimed in. "She's the intern, remember? Group B. They're letting one of the interns try out. It's a publicity stunt." "Seriously?" Another added, adjusting her Chanel earrings. "That's so exploitative, making her think she has a chance." Naomi set her tote down in the corner and pulled out her notepad and pen. If she was going to be the joke, she'd at least look like a writer. The door at the far end opened. A thin man in round glasses stepped inside. His voice was quiet but carried authority. "Ladies, Mr. Cho will be seeing you one at a time. This is not a typical audition. There is no script. You'll be shown an image from the documentary and asked to narrate the emotion behind it. It's about tone, intuition, connection." He glanced down at his clipboard. "Iris Fontaine, you're first." Iris rose in slow, elegant confidence. Her dress shimmered slightly in the light as she walked past Naomi without a glance. The door closed, a beat of silence. Then someone whispered, "She's got this." The voice, the looks, the network. "She's a legacy," another added. "Goddaughter of the chairman." Naomi tuned them out and watched the pulse screen above. It flicked through still images. A nurse holding a soot-covered child, a firefighter breaking down in his truck, a grocery store worker pushing carts under a thunderstorm. They weren't just dramatic. They were real. Naomi scribbled in her notepad, "What would I say if no one was watching?" The door opened. Iris stepped out, her face neutral. A few polite nods, but no celebration. Her confidence didn't waver, but there was a subtle shift. An edge dulled. The assistant called, "Camilla, you're next." The pattern repeated. One by one, each woman went in confident, composed. And one by one, they came out a little quieter, a little paler. Some whispered, some sat down with a thud. One pulled out her phone and began doom-scrolling furiously. Naomi's stomach turned as the list got shorter. 6 names. 5, 4, then Naomi Rivers. Every head in the room turned. Some tried to hide their amusement. A few looked mildly curious, like watching a seal try to climb a diving board. Naomi stood up, brushed off her skirt, and walked toward the door. "You forgot your notepad," one girl called sweetly. Naomi glanced back. "I won't need it." Then she pushed open the door. The audition room was colder than she expected. Not just in temperature, but in atmosphere. Daniel Cho stood near the far window, arms crossed, sleeves rolled to the elbow. His sharp eyes flicked to her, then immediately down to the clipboard in his assistant's hand. "Naomi Rivers," he repeated. "The intern." "Yes, sir," Naomi said, keeping her voice even. He gestured without looking. "Stand on the mark. We're rolling." A spotlight clicked on above her. The image on the monitor behind Daniel shifted to a new frame. A single mother holding her child outside a burned-down apartment building. Her face, smudged with ash, was stoic, but her eyes glistened. Daniel's voice came like a scalpel. "Speak." Naomi looked at the image, looked at the child, the mother's arm, the charred wall behind them, and then she breathed in and spoke. Naomi took a single step forward and let her gaze rest fully on the screen. For a second, the world outside the frame disappeared. Then she spoke. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. She's lost everything, but she won't let her child feel it. Not tonight. She's still their shelter, even without a roof. The room went still. Daniel's eyebrows twitched slightly. Naomi's voice was warm, slow, unpolished but deliberate. She didn't recite. She didn't perform. She narrated like someone who'd lived beside the woman in the photo, like someone who understood. "She's not waiting for help. She's already rebuilding, in the way she stands, in the way she holds him. Her strength isn't loud, but it's there. Constant. Daniel motioned for the next slide. A man in a soaked raincoat pushing carts in an empty parking lot. Everyone left when the storm came, except him, because someone has to gather what others forget. No theatrics, no artificial gravitas. Her words came out like breath, like observation, and it worked. Daniel lowered his arms. "Enough," he said softly. The assistant turned off the screen. Naomi blinked. Her chest rose and fell. She hadn't even realized she'd been holding her breath until now. Daniel stepped forward slowly. His voice dropped to a tone that wasn't cold anymore, just quiet curiosity. "Who taught you to speak like that?" Naomi hesitated. "No one, sir. I just wrote a lot and listened." "To what?" "People. The way they say things when they're not trying to impress anyone." Daniel's stare lingered a second longer. Then he turned to his assistant. "Keep her file." Naomi tilted her head. "Does that mean I?" "It means you're not dismissed," Daniel interrupted. "That's more than I've given anyone today." She nodded. "Thank you." As she turned to leave, Daniel added, "Rivers." She looked back. That tone. "Don't polish it." "I wasn't planning to." A hint of something, maybe amusement, passed over his face. Naomi walked out and closed the door behind her. Silence greeted her in the waiting room. Every head was turned, every eye wide. The air had shifted. Iris, for the first time, didn't have a comeback. Naomi sat down, calmly, quietly, like she hadn't just sent a room full of professionals into an existential spiral. She pulled her notepad from her bag and began writing. One line only. "I didn't need to be better. I just had to be honest." Naomi barely had time to return to her seat before the whispers started. Not loud, not obvious, but she felt them. Eyes darting, crossed legs shifting, fingers frozen on phone screens. One girl cleared her throat, a little too loudly. Another flipped her hair like it would distract from the unease crawling up her spine. Naomi didn't flinch. She opened her notebook again, as if nothing had happened. But Iris couldn't let it go. "So," she said lightly, folding her arms and leaning across the velvet cushion between them. "How long have you been rehearsing that little poem?" Naomi looked up, calm. "I didn't rehearse." "Oh, come on." Iris laughed. "Don't insult us. That voice? That script? You don't walk in with underrated intern vibes and come out like the ghost of Maya Angelou by accident." Naomi didn't bite. Maybe it wasn't a script. Maybe it was just seeing. Iris's smile stiffened. "Right? And next you'll tell me you wrote those lines just now, in your head on the spot." Naomi shrugged. "Would it make a difference?" Before Iris could reply, the assistant re-entered. "Daniel would like to thank everyone for their time. The decision will be announced via email by end of day." That was it. No final round. No callbacks. Just silence. "Wait, that's it?" a brunette actress said, blinking rapidly. "We don't even get to read again?" The assistant didn't budge. "Mr. Cho prefers to make instinctive decisions." He said one take is enough. The room began to break apart. Some stormed out. Some lingered, hoping for clarification. A few stared at Naomi like she was a puzzle missing pieces they couldn't see. Iris stood too. "Well," she said, tugging her designer bag over her shoulder, "it's always refreshing to lose a job to a charity slot." Naomi's lips parted for a second, then closed. She said nothing. Iris stepped forward, eyes glittering. "You know what really bothers me, Naomi? Not your voice. Not even the act. It's that someone like you gets to skip the climb. You haven't clawed your way through industry parties or rejection letters or agent games. You get the same seat we fought for with nothing but sad eyes and a soft whisper. That's not bravery. That's luck." Naomi finally spoke, quiet but firm. "And if I'd failed, you'd still call it luck. So I guess it doesn't matter either way." A tense silence fell. Then the assistant's voice cut through. "Ms. Rivers? Mr. Cho would like a word." Naomi stood, nodding once. "Excuse me." She followed the assistant back down the hallway, past the echoing marble lobby, into the private conference wing. Daniel stood alone by the window, hands in his pockets, the skyline behind him a chaotic blend of steel and sunset. He turned. "You still surprised yourself in there?" Naomi hesitated. "I didn't expect him to listen." "He wasn't listening," Daniel said. "Not at first. But you changed that." He walked toward her, thoughtful. "Iris was right about one thing: you don't play by the same rules. You don't care about winning. That's exactly why your voice works." Naomi tilted her head. "Is that why you called me here?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up a thin folder and handed it to her. Inside was a single contract. Her name, the Pulse logo. She looked up. "You want me to narrate the series?" "I want you to define it," Daniel said. "The narration isn't the garnish. It's the soul. And frankly, Naomi, none of them had it but you." Naomi's fingers brushed the page. "What if I'm not ready?" "Then don't get ready," he replied. "Just stay honest." She looked down at the contract, and for the first time that day she smiled. The contract hadn't even warmed in her bag before Naomi's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. She stepped out into the twilight, the city humming around her, and glanced at the screen. 24 missed notifications, most of them from social media. She tapped one. At Iris_Fontaine. Today was wild. Auditioned with some interesting people. Guess we're redefining what prepared means. Hashtag pulsecasting, hashtag narrate your truth smirking face. It came with a filtered group photo, half the girls in the lounge, including Iris. In the background, blurry but unmistakable, Naomi stood by the water cooler, her frizzy hair catching the downlight like a halo of static. Another post appeared underneath. At TrendyTVdia. Who is Naomi Rivers and how did she land a lead campaign with Pulse Media? Intern to influencer? Hashtag voice of courage, hashtag industry plant. The comments spiraled. She looks like she just left a library fire. Where's the makeup? The brand? Honestly refreshing. Please let her be the real deal. This is either genius casting or a PR stunt gone rogue. Naomi's thumb hovered over the screen. She didn't know if she wanted to scream or disappear. A text popped up from Cam, her best friend back in Oregon. "Cam, Naomi, what did you do? Why are you on my feed? Also, holy crap, you were so good. I'm crying." Naomi finally let out a breath, half laugh, half sigh, and started walking. The evening was warm. Her heart was louder than the street noise. She ducked into a tiny Korean cafe a few blocks away, the kind with steamed-up windows and barely enough room to stretch. She ordered dumplings and a barley tea, slid into the booth by the window, and pulled out her notebook. She wasn't famous. Not yet. But she was seen now, and that meant something far scarier than being overlooked. It meant being expected. The waitress dropped off her plate and grinned at the screen on the wall. Naomi followed her gaze. A fashion gossip channel was playing a fast-cut highlight reel. And Pulse Media made waves today after selecting an unknown intern as the voice of their Courage campaign. Naomi Rivers, a journalism student with zero formal training, reportedly left the casting panel speechless with her off-the-cuff narration. Pulse's creative director Daniel Cho has not commented, but sources inside the building say the decision was instinctive and final. Meanwhile, industry darling Iris Fontaine was seen leaving the building looking less than victorious. The feed cut to Iris stepping into a black car, jaw clenched, sunglasses hiding everything but the tension. Naomi turned away. Her tea had gone cold. She opened her notebook and wrote a line across the page. What they don't understand, they don't have to. By Thursday morning, Naomi was standing in Pulse's downtown studio. A soundproof, glass-walled chamber with floor-to-ceiling acoustic panels and a vintage mic that looked like it had narrated 1,000 legends. Daniel stood in the control booth, arms folded, watching her through the glass. Beside him, a sound engineer in a hoodie hunched over a mixing console, adjusting levels. Naomi wore the same clothes she always did. Plain gray shirt, black jeans, no makeup. Daniel hadn't asked her to change, and she hadn't offered. "Take your time," he said through the intercom. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for presence. Naomi nodded and slipped on the headphones. The lights dimmed. The screen ahead flickered to life. Another image from the series, the firefighter again, slumped in his truck after the rescue, face buried in soot-covered gloves. A siren faintly wailed in the distance. Daniel's voice came through the headset again. "Whenever you're ready." Naomi closed her eyes and breathed. Then she began. He didn't cry when the roof collapsed. Not when the child screamed. Not even when the flames brushed his jacket. But now, when it's over, that's when the weight finally lands. Daniel didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen. The sound engineer leaned forward slightly, eyebrows raised. No one sees him now. He's just a man in a truck. But that silence? That's where the fire still lives. The words ended. So did the background hum of the siren. Naomi looked up, waiting. The lights were still low. Her heart thudded in the void. Then Daniel's voice came through again. "Good." Again. But this time, slower on the last line. Like the thought is too heavy to say. She nodded. They did it again. And again. For hours passed, each take peeling Naomi open a little more. Each image pulled from different places inside her. Memories of long nights helping her mom with bills, sitting outside the hospital during her dad's third bypass, watching her sister hold herself together after a miscarriage. The stories on screen weren't hers, but she had felt them, and that was the difference. By the end of the session, even the engineer was quiet. Daniel stepped into the booth, closing the door softly behind him. "You know," he said, "when I first started in this industry, I thought storytelling was about shouting the loudest." Naomi gave a faint smile. "I thought the same about journalism." He handed her a bottle of water. "You're not just a voice. You're an anchor. You give people something to feel tethered to." She blinked. "Thank you." "No," Daniel said. "Thank you. The campaign launches in 5 days. Your voice is about to echo through a million screens." Naomi stared at the mic in front of her. Suddenly, it didn't feel like a tool. It felt like a doorway. The campaign dropped at 6 a.m. sharp, just as the sun peeked over the Manhattan skyline. By 7:15, it had already racked up 2 million views. By 9 o'clock, Naomi's name was trending on X, TikTok, and Threads, all for the same reason. Who is the voice behind Pulse's new docu-series? It's not who you think. Clips of Naomi's narration began circulating like wildfire. Not her face, just her voice, the soft, unvarnished cadence, the way she felt her words instead of pushing them. Someone posted a side-by-side TikTok. Left, Iris Fontaine in a slick studio, doing a brand promo with perfect lighting. Right, Naomi's voice over black and white footage of a grocery clerk helping a mother carry her bags through a flooded street. The caption read, "One is staged, the other is soul." Even celebrities chimed in. Actress Jenna Reeves tweeted, "The last line of episode 2 broke me. I paused it and just sat there." Naomi Rivers, wherever you are, thank you. Meanwhile, in a penthouse cafe uptown, Iris Fontaine watched it all unfold on her iPad. Her assistant sat across from her, slowly stirring a cold latte. "You want me to flag the hate comments?" Iris didn't look up. "No. Are you okay?" She leaned back, jaw tight. She wasn't even supposed to be there. The assistant hesitated. "I heard Daniel turned down an offer from 2 studios after her clip went viral." Iris snapped the iPad shut. "Call Mateo. I want my next campaign confirmed by Friday. If Pulse wants authenticity, we'll give them more of it." Her tone was crisp, but beneath it, a sliver of something raw cut through. She wasn't angry Naomi won. She was angry she hadn't seen it coming. Back downtown, Naomi sat in the corner of a quiet bookstore, sipping black coffee and scrolling through the comments. Her inbox was full. Offers, interviews, podcast requests. She hadn't even updated her LinkedIn yet. But one message stood out. An email titled "Your Words Reached Me," from an address she didn't recognize. "Naomi, I don't know if you'll see this, but I had to write. My brother was a firefighter. He died 2 years ago. Today I watched your episode and cried for the first time in months. You didn't just say the words. You made me remember who he was. Thank you for giving that moment back to me. Melissa R. Naomi blinked hard. She didn't reply right away. She couldn't. She just folded the laptop and held it against her chest, her breath shaking in the quiet. This wasn't about fame anymore. It wasn't about proving herself or surviving a room full of critics. This was about impact, real, quiet, invisible, but enormous. She smiled through tears and whispered to herself, "This is why we tell stories." A week later, Naomi stood backstage at a dimly lit auditorium, her heart beating like distant thunder in her chest. Pulse Media had invited her to deliver the opening lines live at the Voices of Courage Gala, an annual fundraiser for grassroots heroes featured in the campaign. Normally, they'd have brought in an actress or celebrity ambassador. This year, they had her. She looked out from behind the curtain. Hundreds of faces, glittering gowns, suits, flashing lights, a runway of industry powerhouses seated beside first responders, single parents, teachers, and night shift nurses. Every kind of courage was in that room. Naomi adjusted the mic pinned to her collar. Her blazer was new, cheap, but new, and her hair was pinned up just the way her sister had done it in the mirror that morning, whispering, "You've got this." Daniel appeared beside her, hands in his pockets. "Still breathing?" he asked with a smile. "Barely. You know, I've worked with Oscar winners," he said. "People who cry if their seat cushion isn't warm enough. But you walked into a storm and made it feel like home." Naomi laughed softly. "Only because I didn't know what I was walking into." He gave a small nod, then stepped away. The stage manager raised a hand. Cue in 10. Naomi's fingers gripped the cue card in her pocket, but she wouldn't use it. Not tonight. The lights shifted. A hush fell over the crowd. The host's voice boomed through the speakers. "And now, the voice behind our most powerful campaign to date. Please welcome Naomi Rivers." Applause. Naomi stepped out into the spotlight. It was warm, blinding, and utterly quiet. She took the podium, looked out, smiled gently, then she spoke. "We think courage is loud. Fireworks, headlines, noise, but real courage isn't always seen. Sometimes, it's a woman walking to work in the dark, a teenager holding his brother's hand through chemo, a man rebuilding his life with no one clapping for him. Courage doesn't ask for credit. It just keeps going. And in that quiet, we find something sacred. A hush settled over the room like a soft blanket. She looked up, eyes shining. Tonight, we don't just celebrate strength. We remember that quiet voices still echo. And sometimes, they're the ones that last the longest. Silence. Then, a standing ovation. Not polite, not routine, real. As Naomi stepped back from the podium, she felt the warmth of 1,000 spotlights inside her chest. Not from the stage, but from being seen for the right reasons. Not as the intern, not as the underdog, but as a voice worth listening to. And in that moment, Naomi Rivers didn't just own the room. She belonged in it. Months passed. Naomi's voice continued to echo far beyond the studio. Not through fame or followers, but through the quiet spaces she filled with honesty. Pulse's docu-series won 2 awards. Not for production, not even for direction, but for impact through storytelling. When reporters asked Daniel Cho what made the campaign special, he simply said, "It was never about selling stories. It was about hearing them." Naomi taught us how. Naomi turned down the agent offers, the celebrity podcasts, the lucrative partnerships that came with strings and scripts. Instead, she took a full-time creative editor position at Pulse and launched a digital segment highlighting unknown voices across America. No makeup chairs, no filters, just truth. She never stopped writing in her notebook. She still wore quiet colors, still sat in the back of crowded rooms. But now, when she spoke, the room leaned in, not because she demanded it, but because she didn't have to. Her name became a quiet signal in the industry, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that never planned to be heard. Before we close, let's take a moment to pray. May we all be protected from arrogance and misjudgment, and may we all be protected from harm and injustice in our daily lives. May this story inspire us to treat others with empathy, no matter what they look like or where they come from. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever surprised someone with your hidden strength? We'd love to hear your story. Thank you for listening, and remember, the strongest people often look like the quietest ones. Until next time, stay strong, stay humble, and stay true.